A one-to-one function is defined by h of x equals x over 7x minus 8. We want to find h inverse, and we want to find the domain and range of h inverse. To find the domain and range, we need to understand that when we have our original function h of x and we find the domain and we find the range of h of x, when we have the inverse, h inverse of x, the range becomes the domain and the domain becomes the range of the inverse function. So if I can find the original domain, then I know the range of the inverse. If I can find the original range, I can find the domain of the inverse. For this problem, for domain of fractions, we cannot divide by 0. So we set the denominator, we don't want it to be 0, and we solve for x. So here I need to add 8 and divide by 7. So x cannot be 8/7. On a number line, if we have 8/7, we're graphing everything to the left and everything to the right, and it's just skipping over 8/7. So the interval is -∞, comma 8/7 union 8/7 to infinity. This is the domain of h of x. So I can go ahead and fill in that my range is going to be -∞ to 8/7 union 8/7 to infinity. The range of this function I can find by graphing, but graphing rational functions takes a bit of work. So I'm going to see if I can find the domain a different way. Let's go ahead and find the inverse of the function. So we begin by replacing h of x with the variable y, and next I'm going to switch the variables. So x equals y over 7y minus 8. Now we want to solve this equation for y. So I'm going to undo the division by multiplying by the denominator first on both sides. So it cancels the 7y minus 8, and I have x times 7y minus 8 equals y. Clear parentheses. X times 7y is 7xy minus x times 8 is 8x. Since I want to solve for y, I need to move the y term to the left. I want to get my y terms together, and this term that has only x in it moves away to the other side. So I bring down 7xy and I subtract the y term to it, and then the negative 8x is going to add to the other side and become positive 8x. Next I need to do a GCF. I'm going to factor out the common y. So I get y parentheses, and when I factor out the y, it cancels, so I get 7x minus, and y goes into itself one time. The last step is to divide this group away from y. So y equals 8x divided by 7x minus 1. Since the original function is h of x, this is h inverse of x. So I now know the answer for h inverse of x. It's 8x divided by 7x minus 1. Now let's find the domain of h inverse of x. Since this is also a fraction, we don't want the denominator to be 0. So I'm going to add 1 and divide by 7. So my domain is -∞ to 1/7 union 1/7 to infinity. That's going to be the domain of the inverse function. So sometimes it's easier to just find the domain explicitly from the answer that you get.